Do you want to dissolve your emotional pain? If you're interested in learning how to dissolve your emotional pain, you've clicked on the right video, because I'm going to be talking to you about dissolving your emotional pain right now. Because as we journey through this spiritual realm that we are working in right now, which is trying to become fully awake in consciousness, it brings up a lot of emotions, a lot of changes, a lot of resentments, jealousy, fear, all the emotions that one has as one moves into the space of unknowingness. On this journey, there is a time when we move into what I call unknowingness. And when we're in unknowingness, it brings up all the issues that you may have had experiences in other lifetimes or in this lifetime. So you are dealing with your pent-up emotions. You may find yourself being angry at something that you've never been angry about before. You may find yourself loving something that you've never loved before, because love is an emotion too, and we call that a positive emotion. Love is a wonderful positive emotion when used correctly, but love can move into jealousy, which is an emotional, painful experience. Because we live in the world of opposites, because we are part of the third dimension, and the consciousness that dwells in the third dimension, which is all about living from one emotion to the next. Because the third dimension is loaded with positive, negative experiences. And with those experiences, there also comes the emotional baggage that comes with the experience. We're in love and we think it's wonderful and we found the perfect mate or the perfect job or the perfect car. Oh, it's here. Oh, my heart beats. I love the color of that car. I want that car. It's so streamlined and perfect for me. You sit down with a salesman and he tells you it's going to be this much money and this is going to be your payments. And you think, oh, I can't afford this beautiful car. Oh, but I had my heart set on it. I'm so disappointed. I'm going to have to walk out of the showroom without my beautiful car that I really, really wanted, but can't afford. So I'm going to go home now and feel really bad about that experience and grieve over the fact that I was unable to have that perfect car that I wanted. Same goes with perfect relationships. Same goes with the perfect job that you might have, that you want and you covet, and you go for the interviews and they're wonderful emotional highs, and you feel like you've totally, completely connected with the interviewer, and all of a sudden you realize as you walk out the door, he tells you, you know, you're one of 4 other people that I'm interviewing. Ooh, you go down into emotional pain. You feel deflated. Now, what I want to talk to you about now is how to learn to dissolve it quickly so that you don't have that pain all day long for 2 weeks, that you grieve over the fact that you didn't get the car, you didn't get the relationship you wanted, the house, the whatever, because life is filled, absolutely filled, with the opposites. That's part of the third dimension. That's part of what a soul has to go through. Learning to work in the opposites but not being affected by it. Jesus said, I'm in the world but not of it. What's he talking about? But living in the opposites and not being affected by the opposites. Being in the storm and the storm doesn't affect you. You witness it You see it, but you don't dissolve emotionally into that experience. Very hard to do. We've been working for weeks and months now about being the observer of ourselves. And that is the only way that we can work through the opposites and the emotional pain that comes from experiencing in the opposites and working in the best interest of your soul. Because when you are sitting in that moment in time and space when that opposite hits you smack in the face and you don't know what to do with it, and you are feeling either elated or deflated, depending on what the situation is, how are you going to dissolve that emotional pain? It's an energy. If you can look at emotional pain as an energy, it is an energy that has come over you. And now how do you resist this energy when it's all over you and you are experiencing it full time, completely? What are you going to do about that? How are you going to get out of it? First, you observe and you know you are living in the world of the opposites. That's a gimme. You are. Whether you acknowledge it or not, you are. And you know you are. Because you have had much experience in that. And you've had it in other lifetimes too. So in all the other lifetimes that you've had on planet Earth, in the third dimension, you have lived in the opposites. And when I discovered that for myself, wow, I said, how do I get out of it? What do I need to do? Oh my God, I vacillate between one opposite to the other. Now how do I manage to stay poised in that moment of opposites, so that I'm clearly thinking about what's the most important thing? I can go in and enjoy buying the car and then finding out it's too expensive and say, whew, I'm glad I found that out before I bought it. Gee, maybe I need to get a second job if that's so important to me to have that car. Or maybe I can readjust my thinking and get something a little different. And use it as a learning experience instead of an emotional drain. Emotional drain. You know, you go buy a car and you're so excited about driving it and showing it to all your friends, and it's this wonderful experience that you've had, and you take your children out or your buddies out, all of them out in your new car to show it to them, let them experience all the gadgets and all the fun things that are with that new vehicle. Oh, so what happens now 3 weeks later? What happens? The newness has worn off. Ho-hum. Now I'm finding out, boy, it takes a lot of gas. Whew. Oh, well, it takes a lot of gas, and I got to put a lot of gas in this car. But, okay, I'll watch the gas prices, and I'll make sure that I go and buy gas at the cheapest price. So, okay, I can do that. But you find yourself not so excited about that brand new car 3 weeks later. And now you deal with the disappointment that it wasn't all that you thought it was going to be. This is what happens to us. We buy the house, we buy the car, we move to Timbuktu, and that's not as good as moving to another part of the country. It's back and forth, and it's emotionally draining you, draining you. How do you get that energy back to use it for positive things in your life? That's the important thing, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. Number one, you identify the emotions that you go through. You journal them. You start to learn what triggers your emotions. Once you start to figure that out, and you start to understand how you operate in the emotional arena, then you have an opportunity to make a different choice. A lot of times I find that we get into resentment. Then there's resistance, and then there's revenge. That's what keeps the karmic ball going. Yes, indeed, I have one right here. The karmic ball will go and go and go and go. Resentment, resistance, revenge. That's exactly what happens. You do this to me, I resent it, I resist you, protect myself from you, and then you have revenge. You figure out how to get even. That is karma in its best. Where does love fit? Where does forgiveness fit in all this? When we are in emotional pain, we can't think outside of it. We want to get out of it as fast as possible. So we blame somebody else for our emotional pain a lot of times. A lot of times we blame our mate, our teacher, our friend, our neighbor. We blame because we don't want to deal with our emotional pain within ourselves. We do not want to deal with it. But only when you deal with it and recognize what it is, can you move out of it. But you have to be the observer of this emotional pain. And you have to learn to release the energy. I used to look at this, and still do, look at it as if I had a big sword, which I call my blue sword, which popped the bubble, which popped the emotional pain right in its gut and dissolved it. So pretend like you have a blue sword that's magic, that's full of vibration and energy that can go right through that thought form, because emotional pain is a thought form. It is just a thought form. It's an emotionally charged thought form. And when you learn that everything that's going on is thought forms, even your good thought forms and your bad forms, we try to avoid. And we only want the good ones. But the truth of the matter is that if we're only wanting the good thought forms and try to protect ourselves from the bad thought forms, we are not working in the best interest of our soul. Because it's very, very important as a spiritual student to be very careful about these thought forms that you're in. Because these thought forms have a life of their own. And when I say that to you, they can overcome you. You start to believe you are the thought form you're having. Believe that you are this limited person that can't get out of this emotional pain. And you can. Have you experienced jealousy lately? Is that a pain in the neck? It is a big pain. Jealousy is such a difficult emotion to have because you don't see clearly. You are all in emotional pain, energy, and you make up stories about it. You make up stories. And when you make up a story, what happens? It's full of hot air. It's not real. It is not real. So you make up this non-real story about what that person meant when they said this or that to you, and you're jealous because of it or angry because of it, and it doesn't have any real substance. It's all in your head. All in your head. You have to get a clear head in order to move spiritually on your journey or just living in life. Maybe you don't even consider yourself a spiritual student. Maybe you're just trying to make ends meet. You have the same problem whether you're a spiritual student or not. You might as well be the spiritual student and get your blue sword out and start ripping those thought forms apart. It's only energy. That's all a thought form is. But we give it so much substance. And as long as we give it substance, we are the loser. We lose. Our soul, who's evolving, loses and creates another whole lifetime of resistance, revenge, etc. I dedicated myself that if I ever got beyond a smidgen of the opposites, I would help everyone that wanted to move beyond it in the best way possible. I made that commitment to myself. And so I'm committed to you to break up these thought forms, break them up. If that's just emotional pain, that's a pain in the gut. It's a gut right here, the heart. It just freezes us. Now that I've been talking about this, just take this into consideration when you go somewhere today, tomorrow. See where it takes you. And believe me, if you journal about what is happening in your life, you're going to get a new perspective on how to move out of it. We have to be masters of the third dimension. Masters out of the whole process of being human to being, what do we want to call it? God realized. God realized. I think that's a pretty good word. Cosmic realized. Move out of the limitations of the third dimension into the freedom. You're out of bondage. The third dimension is bondage. You might as well be tied to the law because the law is there. It will grab you up and sling you around emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. I'm talking to all of you who are experiencing the opposites. Emotional pain, thought forms that create havoc in your life. That's who I'm speaking to, and that's everybody. Everybody, unless you are a master, unless you've gone beyond, you are in that category. You live in there. You have your being. You judge it. You identify it and then make a judgment on it that isn't the truth at all. How do you master yourself and your emotions? Observe, meditate, spend some time being one with yourself, and in that process you become one with your soul, one with God, and one with new understanding. I want new understanding. I want a revelation was my cry. When I found myself in emotional pitter-patter, I said, God, stop this. Help me. Help me to look at this quicker and move out of it quicker. Help me, help me. My thing was help me become more awakened in the terrible play I'm in, because you are in a play. And I will explain that play next time I talk to you. What is the play? What is the illusion? How do I get out of it? What is the best way for me to work within the third dimension limitations, because this is the limited part of you. If you want to have your illusions broken, listen to my next video, and I will explain to you what it is to start breaking all your illusions. Because this third dimension is an illusion that you truly believe in. Do your homework. I got your hand. I'm here to help you. I'm here to awaken you to the truth of your own beingness. Bye-bye for now.